Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. Should the Build Back Better plan be bashed? Yes, folks, this was the question in a brand new article in the New York Times. This is an opinion piece by Paul Krugman from the New York Times. And as you can see, the headline on your screen reads, "The bogus bashing of the Build Back Better plan." I'll quote directly from Paul Krugman, an opinion columnist at the New York Times. "Build Back Better, the Biden administration's effort to create a better future for America, is resting on a political knife's edge. It's anyone's guess whether it will become law. What we do know is that for it to make it through Congress, it will have to weather a perfect storm of bad faith, bad logic, and bad arithmetic. In fact, the conservative Democrat from West Virginia, Joe Manchin, is making things difficult for President Biden. In fact, he did speak with President Biden recently, and let's take a look at a very interesting news segment featuring Manu Raju from CNN. And Manu Raju writes this in his tweet. Manchin says he spoke briefly with Biden today. I asked him if Biden is moving closer to him on the Build Back Better plan, and he said, I wouldn't say that. He also made clear he's not changing rules to approve voting rights bill unless the Republicans are on board with the rules changes. And the Democrats are actually pushing him on this. This, folks, tells you how crucial Joe Manchin is to the Build Back Better agenda. Let's roll the tape and check out this segment featuring Joe Manchin, the conservative Democrat from West Virginia. Let's watch.
You were proposing?
No. Just in general, there's still a lot of talk.
What do you mean you wouldn't say that when the president's not moving closer towards you?
No, I don't think I'm asking anybody to move. I want people to understand where I am, and I think that's where we're getting more of an understanding.
Which is where? Where are you?
Hey, you enjoy this.
Wait,
Are you enjoying this?
wait a minute, hold on. I want to know how you would answer something like that.
I mean, are you anywhere to the point where you could vote yes on proceeding?
I got to
the
check with
Build
my
Back
pastor
Better?
here. I can't
You
get
should
in.
check with the pastor.
I can't get in negotiations like this right
Did you hear
now.
that? He said he's checking with the
My
pastor.
pastor.
That means we're getting ready to pass voting rights.
Oh, there we go. I knew my pastor was wise.
Are you anywhere? I mean, they seem to think that they can change the rules and pass voting rights along straight party lines. Do you feel that way?
All my discussions have been with bipartisan with Republicans and Democrats. The rules change should be done to where we all have input in this rules change because we're going to live with them. Because we're going to be in the minority sometime, then the majority back and forth. I think.
You said there were a lot of conversations about methane. Can you say any more about where those conversations are at right now?
I haven't seen the final. I mean, I just have a little bit of input, that's all.
A little bit? You probably have more than a little bit.
So, folks, let's get back to the opinion piece from the New York Times, and I'll quote from the article. By the way, we'll provide you with a link to this article in the description section below. And this is what Krugman writes. I guess reporting conventions require that journalists pretend to believe that Republicans have good faith objections to the Biden plan, that they're worried about deficits or the effect on incentives or something. But we all know that their main objection is simply the fact that it's a Democratic initiative, which means it must fail. Also, it would tax the rich and help the poor. Actually, can anyone even remember the last time leading figures of the Republican Party seriously engaged with real policy concerns? The most recent example I can think of is the enactment of the Children's Health Insurance Program in 1997. It has been bad faith ever since. While the most important source of opposition to Build Back Better is simply the desire to see Biden fail while keeping the rich as possible, there may be some sincere concern that the bill would increase budget deficits. Actually, it wouldn't have a significant deficit impact. The CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, said that the spending is almost completely paid for, and attempts to claim otherwise are not credible. But even if the deficit did increase, why would that be such a bad thing? In fact, Krugman also writes this. I was struck the other day by Elon Musk's declaration that Build Back Better should not pass because it would increase the budget deficit. Interesting fact, Tesla was founded in 2003 and had its first profitable year in 2020. That is, it spent 17 years spending more money than it was taking in because it was investing in the future. If, as many executives like to say, the government should be run like a business, why shouldn't it be willing to do the same thing? So, folks, this is a very interesting argument. Let me know whether you agree or disagree with all the spending proposed by the Build Back Better plan in the comment section below. And let's get back to Krugman. Again, most of the proposed spending would consist of highly productive investments. Finally, there's a lot of talk about how Build Back Better might worsen inflation. Talk that mainly seems to involve failure to do the math, for example, by confusing decades with single years and failing to divide by gross domestic product. It's true that the $1.7 trillion price tag in the bill is a lot of money, but that's spending over 10 years, which means that the annual outlays would be far smaller than the $1.9 trillion rescue plan passed this year, or for that matter, the $768 billion annual defense plan the House passed last week. Also, much of the spending would be paid for with new taxes. Furthermore, you should never cite a big-sounding budget number without putting it in context. Remember, the US economy is enormous. The Budget Office estimates that in its first year, Build Back Better would expand the deficit by 0.6% of gross domestic product, a number that would shrink over time. I'm not aware of any economic model suggesting that spending on that scale would make much of a difference to inflation. And because much of the spending would expand the economy's productive capacity, it would probably reduce inflation over time. At the end of the day, folks, here's an important question to ask, and I'm quoting from the article. Is Build Back Better perfect? Of course not, but it's the best legislation we're likely to get for years to come. And claims that we should let this opportunity pass out of concern over fiscal responsibility or inflation are uninformed at best, dishonest at worst. So folks, let me know what you think about this entire situation, because I can tell you definitively that there is a lot going on right now. And I can tell you that the 2017 tax cuts were a multi-trillion-dollar giveaway to rich people and to corporations. And I can tell you that Republicans at that time, they actually rushed through it pretty quickly. They used the process of budget reconciliation. And I can tell you that what the Democrats are doing could, in fact, end up being good for the economy long term. And I can tell you that this is a very challenging situation, partly because we are so divided as a country. Now, is there a lot of unnecessary stuff? Is there a lot of pork in the Build Back Better plan? Absolutely. And I can tell you that this is a very, very difficult situation, because there are Democrats out there who are willing to do anything to make sure that former President Trump is not reelected, even if that means passing an inflated Build Back Better bill if it helps the Democrats get reelected. So folks, there are economic and political realities to the Build Back Better plan. And at the end of the day, you can decide for yourself whether you want to bash the Build Back Better plan or not. Please click the like button. Please click subscribe. Please enable notifications. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.